They say you never really know a person until money is involved. After 38 years of marriage, I thought I knew my wife better than I knew myself. I was wrong about that. I was wrong about a lot of things. I'm 63 years old. I spent the last 4 years of my working life not working at all. Cooking, driving, sitting in waiting rooms, reading nutrition labels, refilling prescriptions. I did it because my wife, Gloria, had been diagnosed with early-stage Parkinson's. That's what the neurologist at Northwestern Memorial told us on a Tuesday afternoon in October 4 years ago. She'd need careful management. Stress was dangerous. Someone needed to be home. I had been a structural engineer for 31 years. My firm, Caulfield & Webb, had my name on the second line of the letterhead. My partner, Tom Webb, told me to take as much time as I needed. I told him I didn't know when I'd be back. I never went back. My son, Dylan, thought I was making the right call. He lived in Denver then, called every Sunday, asked about his mother's medications, told me I was a good man. I believed him. That was my first mistake. The morning everything fell apart. I was in the kitchen making Gloria's oatmeal. Steel cut, with blueberries, a small spoon of honey, the way she liked it since her diagnosis, since we'd started tracking everything she put in her body. The November light came through the window above the sink, the way it does in Chicago in the late fall, thin and pale, like it's apologizing for something. I remember that light. I remember thinking the kitchen smelled like cinnamon and coffee, and that it felt like a Saturday, even though it was Wednesday. Gloria had left 2 hours earlier for her monthly appointment with Dr. Anand at the Movement Disorders Clinic on Erie Street. She went alone now. She'd insisted, 6 months back, that she was well enough to drive herself, that having me in the waiting room made her feel watched. I'd been hurt by that. But the cardiologist said anxiety could complicate her symptoms, so I backed off. I backed off from a lot of things. My phone rang. The caller ID said Midwest Fidelity Trust, our bank. I almost didn't answer. I figured it was a fraud alert about a charge I'd forgotten to tell them about. I wiped my hands on a dish towel and picked up. Is this Mr. Caulfield? Stephen Caulfield, a woman's voice, professional, careful. Yes, who's this? Mr. Caulfield, my name is Patricia Odom. I'm a senior accounts manager here at Midwest Fidelity on Wacker. I'm sorry to call without warning. I'm calling because, she paused, because I think you need to come in. I turned down the stove. What's happened? Your wife is here, sir. She's been here since 9 this morning. She's in our private consultation suite with a gentleman who is presenting himself as you. The oatmeal went cold. I didn't move. I'm sorry. He has identification, Mr. Caulfield. A driver's license, a secondary form of ID. The signatures match our records. Her voice dropped just slightly. But I've spoken with you on the phone before, sir. When you refinanced in 2019, I remembered your voice. And this man, he doesn't sound like you. My hand tightened around the phone. What documents are they signing? She hesitated. Asset transfer authorizations. A durable power of attorney for financial decisions. Your father-in-law's estate transfer has been pending in our system since probate cleared last week. That's what they came for. I sat down on the kitchen floor. I didn't realize I'd done it until I felt the cold tile through my jeans. Gloria's father, Edmund, had died in September. He was 81, lived alone in Naperville, had spent 40 years quietly accumulating real estate and savings accounts. His will left everything to Gloria. After fees and taxes, it came to roughly $3.8 million. Probate had taken 7 weeks. How long before it's finalized? I asked. The notary arrives at 11. That's, she checked herself. 40 minutes, Mr. Caulfield. Don't let them finish, I said. I can't legally stop them without cause. Not without you here. A pause. That's why I'm calling. I was already standing, already moving toward my keys on the counter by the door. I'll be there in 20 minutes, I said. Come to the side entrance on Franklin. Ask for me directly. Don't use the main lobby. I grabbed my coat. On the counter behind me, the oatmeal sat untouched, the blueberries starting to sink. I'd bought Gloria a Volvo XC60 3 years ago for our anniversary. Silver. She'd cried a little when I showed her, standing in the driveway in her robe, coffee cup in hand. I'd felt proud that morning. The kind of stupid, uncomplicated pride you feel when you think everything is exactly as it appears. As I turned onto Wacker Drive, I passed it in the parking structure across the street from the bank. Silver Volvo. Illinois plate GHL 49. I sat at the light for a full 10 seconds just looking at it. Patricia Odom met me at the Franklin entrance wearing a gray blazer and an expression of controlled unease. She was maybe 55, trim with reading glasses pushed up on her head. She shook my hand firmly. Then she held up a small piece of paper with a photo printed on it from the lobby security camera. "Is this your wife?" she asked. It was Gloria. Navy coat, hair done, handbag I'd given her 2 Christmases ago. "Yes." She showed me the second photo. I stared at it for a long time. He was around my height, maybe a year or 2 younger. Gray hair, close cropped the way I kept mine, wire-framed glasses. He was wearing a tan blazer, the exact kind I favored for business meetings, the kind I'd worn to every client presentation for 15 years. He was leaning forward slightly with his forearms on the table, the same unconscious posture I'd developed from years over drafting tables. "How long have they been here?" I asked. "Since 9. The notary comes at 11. If you want to stop this legally, Mr. Caulfield, you have about 30 minutes. She led me through a back corridor to a small monitoring room, a wall of screens. She pulled up the feed for the private consultation suite on the 2nd floor. Gloria sat at the far end of a mahogany table, composed and unhurried. She looked, and this is what shook me more than anything, she looked healthy, straight posture, steady hands. She was laughing at something the man beside her had said, touching his arm lightly, the way she used to touch mine when she wanted me to know she approved. Beside her sat a woman I recognized immediately, my daughter-in-law, Roxanne, Dylan's wife, my son's wife. She was organizing documents with the focused efficiency of someone who'd done it 100 times in rehearsal. I pulled out my phone and called my oldest friend. 40 years ago, Art Benson and I had shared a drafting studio in graduate school. He'd gone into law instead of engineering. Family law, then estate litigation. He was the best I knew. He picked up on the second ring. "Stephen, what's wrong?" I told him everything in under 2 minutes. I heard him shift into a mode I recognized. The same way I used to go quiet and precise when I was reading Structural Failure. He asked 3 sharp questions. I answered all 3. "Don't go in that room," he said. "This is identity fraud, conspiracy, wire fraud. Federal if the transfer clears. I can file for an emergency injunction to freeze all pending transactions." "Then stop talking to me and let me work." I hung up and turned to Patricia. "Pull up her medical records, Gloria's, whatever you have on file." She hesitated. "That's outside hour. Please." I looked at her directly. "I need to know if what I'm about to find is what I think it is." She made a call. Came back with a printout 2 minutes later. It was just a summary from the health information form we'd filed when we opened our joint health savings account 4 years ago. Self-reported condition, early-stage Parkinson's, diagnosed October 2020. Physician, Dr. S. Anand, Northwestern Memorial, Movement Disorders Clinic. I called the clinic directly. Got through to a scheduling coordinator. "I need to confirm a patient appointment for this morning. Gloria Caulfield." Keyboard clicks. "Sir, we don't have a Gloria Caulfield in our system as an active patient. She's been a patient of Dr. Anand's for 4 years. More clicks. A pause. "We have no record of that name." I ended the call and stood very still. 4 years. 4 years of blueberry oatmeal and low-sodium dinners and medication schedules and waiting rooms I never actually sat in because she always went alone. 4 years of stepping back from my own career, my own friendships, my own life. I sat down. Patricia set a paper cup of water in front of me without a word. I called Marcus Webb, Tom's younger brother, a private investigator out of Evanston who I'd met once at a firm Christmas party and whose card I'd kept in my wallet for no reason I could ever explain.
Marcus Webb.
My name is Stephen Caulfield, Tom Webb's partner. I need everything you can find on a man. I'm sending you his photo from a security camera right now. Got it. Give me 25 minutes. He called back in 18. His name is Philip Sato, 51 years old, former commercial insurance adjuster, lost his license in 2019 for document fraud. Owes about $190,000 in gambling debts, mostly to private creditors. He's been living in a sublet in Wicker Park, lease registered to Roxanne Holloway. Roxanne Holloway. My daughter-in-law's maiden name. There's more, Marcus said. I'm sending you bank records. Transfers from a business account called HGR Consulting to Philip Sato's personal account, monthly starting January of this year, $10,000 a month, 9 payments so far. I looked at the screen. Gloria was refilling her water glass, chatting easily with the bank representative across the table. Roxanne was stacking documents into a leather portfolio, whose name is HGR Consulting, registered under. Marcus paused. Dylan Caulfield, he said, your son. The room did something I can only describe as tilting, though nothing moved. My son, the man who called every Sunday, who asked about his mother's medications, who told me I was a good man for staying home to care for her. Art called back at 10:47. The injunction was filed. All pending transfers at Midwest Fidelity flagged for review, frozen pending investigation. He was on his... Marcus sent me one more file while I was waiting. Photographs. Dylan and Philip Sato at a restaurant in River North, November of the previous year. Dylan and Roxanne at O'Hare, photographed near the International Departures Terminal with 2 large suitcases. The day before my father-in-law's funeral. The funeral they had said they couldn't attend because Roxanne had a conference in Atlanta. There was one more photograph. I almost didn't open it. It was a screenshot of a shared document sent from Marcus's contact at a digital forensics firm he used. The document was titled simply EC Estate Execution Plan. It had been created on Dylan's personal Google account on October 14th, the same week Edmund Calloway's will had been entered into probate. I read it on a 4-inch phone screen in a bank monitoring room that smelled of old carpet and recycled air. Phase 1. Establish medical dependency narrative. Duration 3-4 years. Method. Mom self-reports Parkinson's to HSA, insurance records, and GP. No hard clinical documentation required for financial power of attorney filing. Status. Complete. Phase 2. Identify and prepare financial double. Duration 8 months. Method. Find subject matching dad's physical profile. Coaching on signature, voice patterns, mannerisms, dress. Cost $90K. Status. Complete February. Phase 3. Wait for EC probate clearance. Target 8M. Status. Cleared November 4th. Phase 4. Location. Midwest Fidelity Trust Wacker branch. Participants. Mom, double, Roxanne. Document coordination. Status scheduled today. Phase 5. Wire funds to offshore account. Depart within 48 hours. Destination, Costa Rica, then Portugal. Split. Dylan 60%, Roxanne 25%, Philip 15%. Mom to be left behind. Note, Mom does not know about Phase 5. She believes we're all moving together. She doesn't need to know. That last line. She doesn't need to know. I sat with that for a long moment. My son had recruited his own mother. Had let her believe she was getting away to a new life with the people she loved, had planned to leave her in an airport or a hotel room or wherever the handoff point was, with no money, no explanation, and a felony on her record. Art arrived at 10:53. He read the document on my phone without speaking, then handed it back. "Where's Dylan now?" he asked. "I don't know." Art made 2 calls in rapid succession. The second one was to a Detective Harmon at CPD's Financial Crimes Division, who Art apparently knew from a case 3 years prior. Harmon said he'd have 2 plainclothes officers at the bank by 11:15. "What do you want to do about your wife?" Art asked. "I thought about that. Gloria didn't know about Phase 5. She thought she was part of this. She had agreed to it, had participated in it, had sat across from a stranger wearing my face and helped him sign away my inheritance. But she didn't know her son planned to leave her behind. I didn't feel forgiveness. I want to be honest about that. What I felt sitting in that room at 10:58 on a Wednesday morning in November was something colder and quieter than anger. It was the feeling of a man who has finally stopped being surprised. "Let's go," I said. I opened the door to the consultation suite at 11 o'clock exactly. The room went quiet the way rooms do when something has gone wrong, and everyone present knows it. Gloria saw me first. Her face moved through 4 expressions in about 2 seconds. Shock, then something that might have been relief, then fear, then a careful blankness she didn't quite achieve. Philip Sato stood slowly. He was better in person than in the photograph. The hair, the glasses, the posture. Whoever had coached him had done thorough work. He opened his mouth to say something. "Sit down, Philip," I said. He sat. The bank representative, a young man named Carter, who looked like he wanted to be anywhere else on earth, pushed his chair back slightly from the table. Roxanne didn't move. She kept her hands flat on the portfolio in front of her. I'll give her that. She was the steadiest one in the room. I set the folder on the table. "Gloria," I said, "I need you to read something." She looked at the folder like it might burn her. "Steve, read it." I opened to the page with Phase 5 highlighted. I watched her eyes track across the lines. I watched the moment she reached Mom to be left behind. Her breathing changed. Just slightly, but I'd watched her breathe for 38 years, and I knew what changed breathing looked like. "He was going to leave you," I said. "He had a one-way ticket and 60% of the money, and a plan that ended the moment you were no longer useful." Roxanne said quietly, "Gloria, don't tell her what to do," I said. "She's been told what to do for 4 years." Gloria looked up at me. She didn't look like a woman who had tried to steal from her husband. She looked like a woman who had just realized she'd been used by 2 sets of people simultaneously. By me unintentionally, as a caretaker who never questioned anything, and by her own son, very intentionally, as a prop. "I thought he loved me," she said. I didn't answer that. Detective Harmon's officers came in at 11:12. Philip Sato was arrested for identity fraud, forgery, and criminal impersonation. Roxanne was arrested for conspiracy and wire fraud. She asked for her lawyer before they finished reading her rights. Gloria was arrested. She stood very still while they did it, her navy coat buttoned to the collar, her hands behind her back. She looked at me once, and I looked back, and then I looked away. Art handled the injunction confirmation with the bank. The transfers were fully frozen. The offshore account Dylan had established in the Cayman Islands, as it turned out, was flagged within the hour through the federal wire fraud filing. Dylan was arrested at O'Hare at 1:45 that afternoon. He and a rolling suitcase and a one-way ticket to Lisbon with a connection in London. He called my cell phone from the precinct at 3. I watched it ring and set it face down on the kitchen counter. The oatmeal was still on the stove, cold and congealed, blueberries gray now. I threw it out. The trials took 5 months. The judge in Dylan's case called it one of the most calculated long-term financial conspiracies she had seen in a family setting. Dylan received 11 years. Roxanne received 8. Philip Sato, who cooperated with federal prosecutors in exchange for a reduced sentence, received 4 years and lifetime revocation of any financial industry licensing. Gloria received 3 years, reduced to 18 months with good behavior credit and cooperation, because the prosecution confirmed she had not known about Phase 5. Her attorney argued credibly that she had been manipulated by her son and had believed until the morning of the arrest that the plan included her. I don't know if that made it better or worse. I spent a long time not knowing how to answer that question. She wrote me a letter from the correctional facility in Decatur, then another, then a third. I read all of them. I sat with each one for a day or two, turning the words over, looking for something that felt true. Then I put them in a drawer. I sold the house in Lincoln Park in the spring. Too many mornings in that kitchen, too many oatmeal routines that turned out to be architecture for a lie. I kept enough from the estate to live on and donated the remainder, $2.1 million, to a nonprofit that runs financial literacy and fraud prevention workshops for seniors across Illinois. I asked them to name the program after my father, who had spent his whole life saving carefully and trusting people completely. I moved to Asheville, North Carolina, bought a small craftsman house with a covered porch that faces west, so the evenings are good. Tom Webb's daughter is an architect based in Charlotte, and she offered me a part-time consulting role. Just a few projects a year, nothing I can't step away from. I took it. I go to a therapist on Thursday afternoons. Her name is Dr. Elaine Cho, and she is patient in a way that doesn't feel like pity. We talk about trust and what happens when the version of yourself that trusted is the same one that built the life you're now living inside of. It's a slow conversation. This past March, I was sitting on the porch with a cup of coffee and my neighbor's dog, who comes over uninvited most mornings and sits on my feet like that's what feet are for. The magnolias were starting. My phone showed a missed call from a Decatur area code. I knew what it was. I didn't call back. I sat there a while longer with the dog and the coffee and the magnolias, and I thought about the morning 4 years ago when I walked away from my career because I believed someone needed me. I don't regret the decision. That's the complicated part. I would have made the same choice if it had been real. That's what they counted on. But here's what I know now, what I wish someone had told me before any of it started. Love is not the same thing as proof. Caring for someone is not the same thing as trusting them without verification. I gave up the right to ask questions because I thought love meant not needing answers. I thought sacrifice meant going blind. Check your accounts. Know where your money moves. If someone you love suddenly needs to manage everything financial while you manage everything domestic, ask why. Not because you don't love them. Because love without clarity is just exposure. I gave 38 years to a family that spent 4 of them planning to leave me with nothing. I'm not telling you that for sympathy. I'm telling you because I was not a careless man. I was a careful man who stopped being careful in exactly the place they needed me to stop. Don't do what I did. The dog just put his head on my knee. The coffee is still warm. The magnolias don't know anything about any of this, and that honestly is the best thing about them.